Welcome to Tenacious Entrepreneurs, where perseverance meets purpose and every setback is just another step forward. Join us as we dive into the journeys of entrepreneurs who faced failures, embraced change, and emerged stronger than ever. Whether you're dreaming big or already on your way, this podcast is here to remind you that the end is only the beginning. Stay inspired, stay tenacious, and let's conquer the entrepreneurial world together.
This is Joseph Dupont with the Tenacious Entrepreneur Podcast. Welcoming you back. Today we got a special treat. We've got Mayra Pineda, the president of CEO of Hispanic Chamber of Commerce here in Louisiana. She's fostered strong ties with the Latin American community and the people here in America. She's also a former consul general of Honduras and Subway franchise owner for 25 years. She's received numerous awards, and she's been an amazing pillar here in the New Orleans community. Mayra, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I always enjoy conversations and sharing and learning from my collaborators.
Absolutely. So we joined the chamber, and I had a chance to get to know you a little bit, and I'm just looking forward to visiting with you on camera and getting to know some of your successes and failures. I know. Looking back on life, like right now, what do you have on your plate? Like I know you're the Chamber of Commerce president. What do you got going on in your life?
Yes, well, in my personal life, I'm enjoying family life with a baby granddaughter, 3.5-year-old toddler. So enjoying how she's discovering the world.
She's just discovering Mardi Gras, huh?
Discovering Mardi Gras. And so as grandparents, my husband and I are enjoying this stage of life. In the professional life, the nonprofit world is one that is very challenging. And as I'm sure you've heard, the Hispanic community right now is going through some difficult times, and we can't ignore those. But that's when we come together and, make sure that we are one voice.
Yep.
And that we are there as an organization to support our Hispanic business owners, our community, any way we can.
So you've been a business owner yourself. I feel like so many times that we see people that are coaches or they're leaders in business networking groups or whatever, but they haven't actually went through owning a business themselves.
Yes.
And so sometimes they don't understand like the challenges that a small business owner has, and you do. I mean, I do. Your background, you were in the franchise industry, right?
Yes. So I owned Subway franchises for 25 years.
Okay.
And that's actually how I started my relationship with the chamber, which, I've been associated in one way or another on the board as a member, chairing the board, and then in the executive side for the last 14 years as CEO with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce of Louisiana. So I own Subway franchises. I started with one and grew up to 3, and then went back when I started in this role to, I sold those and didn't continue with the franchises. But for 25 years, it was a day-to-day activity, making sure that we were serving customers, that we were keeping the correct policies that Subway mandated, because as you know, franchises have rules and regulations that you're supposed to follow to the T. And then, of course, managing staff, which I thank God every day that I'm not doing that now, because it's a different environment now.
Were you hands-on? Like, did you actually work in the restaurants, or did you just oversee? Or
no, I was hands-on.
I'm just picturing you in a Subway shirt right now. I'm just trying to.
Yes,
like you were in
actually
there
in Kenner,
making the sandwiches.
The stores were in Kenner, and I started with the first one on Williams Boulevard, and almost at the intersection of Williams and Veterans. And I met so many people that would come, on a day-to-day basis, and they see me even today at a bank or, at different stores in Kenner. That's where we live. And they recognize me, the Subway lady.
Yeah, there's a Subway lady.
It's a Subway lady.
So you were you were in the Subway franchises in '06 whenever Katrina happened.
Yes.
How did that affect your
So
franchise?
that was a very difficult time, as you know, for all business owners. In my case, it was so hard to make sure that we were taking care of our employees, but at the same time, everyone was displaced and went, their own way, different. And for months, we were out of the area, so we didn't know where anyone was.
Right.
And we basically came back, my husband and myself, to clean the space that was flooded, that had food that had been there for 3 or 4 weeks in the coolers and the freezers.
Wow.
But there was no help from anyone else. So it was my husband, myself, doing all the work. And then when we finally were able to open the doors, it was, sun up to sundown, everything from baking bread, prepping food, cleaning, serving, everything that the business required
And I mean,
was being done.
Was it easy to get staff at that time? I mean,
It was very difficult. And slowly, I did have some of my staff members return, some of my team return, one of the managers returned, but I would say the first month we were there from 4 in the morning until midnight every day.
Yeah.
Just making sure that we were keeping our doors open because there was a little open around us, and
Right,
people
right.
still needed food, and were looking for that kind
yeah,
of
yeah,
service.
you're trying to find a way to
So-
meet the need.
Exactly.
And so, at what point did you decide that you needed to sell the franchises and
When
move
I-
on into other things?
Yes, well, for many years, and as you know, so Katrina, not only the impact was, to the actual facility, but it was also an economic impact, having, the store closed for at least a month and a half, and then after that, having to take on loans to make sure, even though we had coverage, but
You had to do the PPP loans
yes,
and all that stuff.
at that time it was FEMA, there wasn't PPP, it wasn't a grant, it was a loan. So all of these things, plus the demands of a franchise became, too much. I'm very grateful for the learning experience and also the productivity of the stores throughout those 25 years. But after 25 years, and then I had started in this role, it was time for me to walk away and sell the franchises.
Was there ever I mean, going back away from the franchise world, but just in business, when you started your first franchise, like how did you do that? You just went and got a loan, or you came out of pocket?
The first franchise, most of it came out of pocket and savings that we had, and that's very common for entrepreneurs, as
Yeah,
you know. Then for Katrina, that's when we went into loans. But at first, it was out of pocket, small savings. We wanted to see where we would invest it and get the most return on our investment. And the Subway franchise was very attractive, was very popular at that time. We did you have to do your research, you have to do your marketing plan, your business plan, and then make sure that it's something that you want to get into. That's the same for that's your roadmap for any business owner. And that's how, we decided on the Subway franchise as a investment. And it worked. Like I said, it gave me, for me, it was two things. It was something that was mine, so I could manage it, and it was very rewarding. But it also gave me the flexibility. I say flexibility because being an entrepreneur and a small business owner is very hard.
Right.
Your whole life is invested, your time, you're committed 100% because that's your livelihood.
Right.
And you also have the responsibility of the employees that you hire. And so, but it gave me the flexibility when my son was growing up to be able to go pick him up from school, stay home if he was ill, or do things that normally if you have, a 9-to-5 job or a corporate job or any other type of responsibility is much harder to do.
So did your husband work with you in the business, or?
No, my husband at that time, he was still working. So he used to work for the city of New Orleans.
Okay.
And I was
He
the
worked for
one.
the city of New Orleans during Katrina. Had to be tough.
Yes. He retired after that.
He retired after the Katrina.
Right.
He was able to. He finally retired.
Right.
But I'm just saying, like, so you were doing this as a woman,
Yes.
solo entrepreneur
Correct.
in your business, and so that's a tough place.
It is.
Did you ever find any challenges with being a woman in business? Was there ever any?
I think it's the
pushback?
same challenges that most women business owners face
I mean,
sometimes.
you were Hispanic,
The authority.
and you're a woman,
Exactly.
and so I mean, I'm just saying, like, I'm sure that was a tough spot.
Sometimes it is, but you have to have that, I would say, certainty and self-assurance that you can do it. And if you're a leader and you know how to lead people,
Right.
then, it becomes very obvious after a while, and people then
Respect you
start
and want to follow
respecting
you
and follow you.
Yeah.
So I think I did have those type of challenges with employees, male employees sometimes.
Yeah.
Accepting authority from a Hispanic woman, and then when it came about negotiations with bankers and things like that, sometimes I was required to bring my husband in, or
Right.
the family in.
Right.
To
Instead of
so-
just being able to be yourself. And
Exactly.
I mean, now it's hard to imagine that now that you're so successful in what you're doing, ever have a place where they would ask you to bring somebody else in to vouch for you or to.
Yes, I just think everything that you do in life prepares you for your next,
Right.
chapter.
Yeah.
And in my case, definitely being a Subway franchise owner and a small business owner myself helped me to understand the challenges our business owners go through, as in this role as CEO of a nonprofit.
So talk to me about whenever you took over as a CEO of a nonprofit. Like did you come into $100 million sitting in the bank and everything's great, or
No,
Okay.
I wish.
okay? Talk to me
No,
about that. Like they
so that-
tapped you on the shoulder and said, "Hey,
Yes, at that time I was on the board.
okay,
And the board of directors saw a need for a restructuring of the organization. We saw a decline in membership and also in funding. And we were in the red when
Okay.
I took over.
Okay, so
and
you were in the
so
red.
it was supposed to be just a temporary kind of situation until we searched for a new CEO, for a new executive director at that time. And so
the more you searched, the more they were like, we need someone like Mayra. Well, maybe like how about
yes,
Mayra?
I would step, and I accepted the challenge. It was supposed to be, like I said, at that time, I still owned the subways.
Okay.
But so 14 years later, the organization when I started in this role had less than 100 members, and like I said, we were not doing
Less than 100
well.
members. Wow.
Yes.
So where are y'all at today? Like,
Almost 900.
okay, so almost 900 members.
14 years later.
Yeah, 14 years later, you just
Yes.
grew and grew and grew.
And programming, we are a statewide organization, so we need to do programming throughout the state, and we've grown, into that. There's still a long way to go to where I see us in a few years, but we've definitely come a long way.
Yeah.
And I see that our programming is very active throughout the year with signature events, with tools and resources for small business owners, with connections being made with members, now being able to get procurement opportunities and in the supply chain for corporations, for the government, different administrations. We just had a Super Bowl, and we had some of our members access contracts to, with the Super Bowl,
And so you
with
guys
the
help
NFL.
with the contracts and
Yes.
Okay,
And
that's-
we help connect them to the NFL and to the opportunities the NFL had, because they did have a supplier diversity program, and we were one of the members of
Right.
the partners helping promote those opportunities.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
That's excellent. Going back to whenever you first came to America, like I know we were talking about this before we came on the air, and that's a tremendous story. But take us back there, like when you first made the
Yes.
decision. Your mom, of course, made
So
the
it
decision.
was a tough time for our family because my dad had just passed
Was this
away.
1980? 87, 1980. Okay.
Yes.
1980.
So my dad passed away in December of 79.
Okay.
And, a few months later, my mom, who is definitely my inspiration, she's been a very, very visionary woman, very strong woman, and definitely a role model for me, decided that my brothers were still in high school, and my dad passed away from a very expensive illness, leukemia.
Oh, okay.
At that time, in order for him to get the treatments that he needed, he traveled from Honduras to Houston, to the MD Anderson and back. So imagine the cost associated with that. But so my mom decided that she wanted to move out of Honduras, to give them, my brothers primarily, a better education. I was almost at the end of my education. I went to college in Switzerland, so
Switzerland. Okay.
Geneva. So then my brothers were still, like I said, I think their second year in high school, and she said, well, let's see what I can do. And the president of the country at that time was a good friend, and he offered, posts that they had open here in New Orleans. And of course, because New Orleans has a large Honduran community, we knew people, we had some family members here. My mom immediately accepted that offer, and we moved. Uprooted the whole family and came. She sold everything. And
So was
we
she
came
in
here.
business or whatever? Like
No,
that? Like
at that time she was not
she wasn't in
work-
business. She was just
No, my dad was an engineer. They had an engineering
Right.
company, and the firm was still operating, but she was not
Yeah,
an
yeah, she was
engineer.
not in it. Yeah, she wasn't an engineer.
So she wasn't in.
so.
in it.
So she picks
So
up
she
and says,
sold
"Let's-"
her shares in the firm and sold everything she had, and moved the whole family over here.
Wow.
Yes.
Sound like I need to have her on the show.
She's fantastic.
She's fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's tremendous. But so she came over here. Your brothers didn't really speak
English.
at all. You did.
I did because
And were you already out of college, or
I was already out.
Okay.
Had just finished the
finished.
year before.
okay?
Yeah.
And so
And
y'all
so
moved here.
we moved here. Like I said, my brothers attended an all boys Catholic high school in Honduras, and they came here to Riverdale High School.
Okay.
And without speaking a word of English, started school. And it was tough.
Yeah.
I mean, it was tough. Not only did our whole lifestyle changed. Living in Honduras, we had a lot of comforts and,
Yeah.
things.
What part of Honduras did you live in?
The capital city, Tegucigalpa.
Okay.
I'm originally from. That's where I was born and raised.
I've been to Tegucigalpa many times.
Yeah.
There's always a crowd cheering whenever you land.
Not
They moved the
anymore.
airport now, huh?
And now they moved the airport.
Yeah, I
so
thought
now
so. They said they
it's-
moved it.
it's-
It's
There's
a-
a new airport.
So the
no
airport used to be
cheering
between
necessary.
two mountains and an interstate like that to stop traffic
Yes,
in order for us to get in.
I know. It was an interesting airport for
yeah,
sure.
it was definitely
Famous for the wrong things.
Yeah, it was famous for the wrong thing. Everybody would break out and cheer whenever you finally landed. They're like, "Yes, we made it."
We made it.
So you came here, and your brothers went to Riverdale. Did you just immediately start working, or did you?
I immediately started working. At that time, there was an airline that flew direct flights from Honduras to New Orleans called Sasa Airlines,
Okay,
SAHSA.
so I knew about Taka Airlines.
Yes, well, Sasa was in effect before Taka.
Okay.
And that was the airline that flew from Honduras directly to New Orleans.
Okay.
And so I started working there. After that, I was in the
You were a
hotel.
stewardess, or you were
No.
working the counter? Or?
I was working the counter and the office.
Okay.
The office was downtown at the Tidewater building on
Okay.
Canal Street.
All right.
So I was there for a couple years. After that, I went to the hotel business. I worked for the
That was during the World's Fair in '84.
Yes, Hyatt Regency New Orleans, in convention services and public relations. And then I also went to it was the International Hotel, but it was when it became Doubletree. So I
Okay.
worked for Doubletree. And then after that, that's when I became consul general. So it's, like I said, everything I've done has prepared me
For where you are
what,
now.
where I am
Explain
now.
that. You said it flippantly, like I became consul general, like almost like you changed your coat. But I mean, how did you become consul general?
Well, my mom, like I shared with you, that's how
Yeah.
she came here. From here, she was transferred to Houston and then to San Francisco, and then she came back here.
Okay.
And when she was finally retiring, I was tapped by the other current president to see if I would be interested in that post and representing
You had to be one of the
Honduras.
youngest women in that time that was put in that position.
I was, but and again, that was another environment not dominated
By
by
men.
by men.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
But it was very interesting. It was one that I enjoyed thoroughly because I had, like the best of both worlds. I was able to work and serve the community, the Honduran community here, and also the one trying to come here, but also represent the country and promote it to the business community,
yeah.
the mainstream community.
I spent some time on the island of Roatan. We did a lot of scuba diving and all that kind of
That a
stuff.
beautiful-
It's second to the Great Barrier Reef.
Yes.
It's supposed to be like, actually, the guy that was a scuba instructor was from Australia. And he said he left the Great Barrier Reef to come here and instruct because it was all so different.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
We really have in Honduras treasures that, sometimes when you travel throughout the world and you see, what
Yeah.
people have, and we say we have such beauty in Honduras, so many resources, natural resources, and wonderful people.
So are you still the consul general?
No.
Okay.
No, that was
it was like 80,
a term.
85, 86, something like that?
Yes.
And so you were that for a season, and then when did that stop? Like, what was the transition?
It's
to the
a
next one?
presidential term.
Okay.
So during
end of the
at the end of the
presidential term.
presidential term, a new appointment was made for another one, and that's when I said, "Okay, so what
What's
am I
next?
going to do
Yeah.
now?" And that's when we decided to open the Subway franchises.
Okay. So you just decided, okay, we need to pivot and do something different.
Do something different.
and
That's
get-
what we do.
Get into a different world. Yeah, it definitely makes sense. There's a lot of things that happen in business and in life that are struggles. I know Katrina was, for me, I was in the RV business at the time. Whenever Katrina happened, I had an RV dealership in Hammond, Louisiana, and a campground, and then one in Baton Rouge. And I remember specifically or vividly after the storm, the people that would come in. I mean, and women that were in long T-shirts, obviously just got woke up out of bed,
Yes.
had boxers on, and didn't have a place to go.
No.
And they were just, lined up at the RV dealership to try to get an RV and figure out a way to survive. And it was so difficult being in Hammond and Baton Rouge and seeing it. I can't imagine being here.
Exactly.
Like, what was it like the day after Katrina came through?
Well, I didn't come back for at least 3 weeks. There were so many things happening so quickly, as many of you, and we're celebrating 20 years of Katrina this year.
Yeah.
But for example, when they told us, okay, there's a hurricane coming, we have to evacuate, I took, a little overnight bag
Because
with
you're like most Louisianians.
exactly
We
a couple things.
We hear hurricane, we're like, it's a party.
Exactly. So a couple things, and we had, good friends that lived in Monroe, and it said, let's go to Monroe. That's where we evacuated every time.
Right.
We'll go over there, spend the weekend, and come back. Well, that didn't happen, right?
Right.
We all know that.
Did your house get water in it? Or?
My house was flooded. I had, like 6 feet of water in Metairie. And then I had a son that was at that time starting his junior year at Jesuit High School. And Jesuit was completely flooded.
Yeah.
So what do? So I knew that we were coming back. We were coming back to take care of the business and all of that. But I knew that my son needed to go to school. So what were we? But this was like 10 days after that. We were thinking about all these things. My son ended up in Honduras.
Oh, wow.
attending the American school over there, living with my mom, and loving every minute. For him, it was the best year of his life.
Travel abroad.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that allowed us, my husband and myself, the time and, the focus to really take care of our business
So did you
without
get like
having
a
to.
FEMA trailer brought in, or
We
like
had a FEMA trailer
okay.
brought in.
to your
until-
house, and you were able to stay at your house?
Exactly.
Okay.
Until the house was.
Yeah, I know a lot of people had to
repaired.
be moved out into campgrounds and
Yes.
everything else, and that was the big problem. Was it
And like
looting
the
and all that?
Jesuit community, all of the children were sent to different Jesuit high schools in different places, in Houston, in Dallas, in
Right, all
Chicago, all over. But, I wasn't really comfortable with sending my son to
Someplace where you didn't know
where I didn't
anybody
know
and-
anybody.
yeah, yeah.
Exactly. So that's why he went.
And he was 17, you said?
Yes.
Okay.
He was. But like I said, I had to physically travel to Honduras at the end of the junior year and tell him you're going back to New Orleans for your senior year, because he had ideas that he was going to
He was just going to stay there.
stay there for his senior year.
Yeah.
And for us, it meant, like I told you before, rebuilding the business, every step of the way.
Yeah, from ground
but
up.
what I wanted to share is, for the business owners, one blessing that we have here in this great country is that all of the resources available to business owners.
Right.
So everything from the Small Business Administration grants and LED, the Louisiana Economic Development tools, organizations like the Hispanic Chamber and others that are there to support, during events like natural disasters, but on an everyday basis to support business owners. And so we need to make sure that, those business owners are aware of these tools and those resources, because many times they're not.
Yeah, so being able to pivot and have something to back you up, and especially, I believe, in the Hispanic community, even more so, because there's intimidation about not understanding what's available to you and not
Exactly.
understanding that it's actually there for you. And
And so that's why, the value of an organization like ours, where we have a trusted space, where language is not a barrier, where we're there to connect you and bridge any gaps, and to make sure that there's an advocacy piece as well, to make sure that everybody receives the same opportunity as
So,
everybody else. That we have a seat at the table
Yeah.
with other business owners or organizations.
I feel like this is more of a passion for you, like you're getting to live out your legacy years.
I love what I do.
That's what I'm saying.
I
like
really,
I see it so effortlessly for you.
sometimes, like I said, we've grown over the course of 14 years to, many more members and sponsors, and we do a lot of collaborations with other organizations. I love those collaborations because it just makes us because do, and I think we're here to make sure that we're serving and just bringing everyone and lifting everyone with us.
That's awesome. So if you could say one thing to somebody who's struggling in business out there, and they're trying to figure out how to pivot, and they maybe feel like, it may be somebody Hispanic, may just be a woman, it may be a man, I don't know, but they're trying to pivot. Like what's the one word of encouragement you would give?
Well, just last Saturday, we held we do 2 job fairs and resource fairs a year. We had our job and resource fair at Xavier University. It wasn't only the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce there. We had, in the resource area, we had 10 different organizations that serve the community, whether it's education for youth, whether it's health and health services and screenings, local administrations, state administrations, just different resources. So what I would tell, business owners that are struggling or looking for other opportunities, to make sure that they connect with an organization or a network like ours.
Right.
Whether it's the Hispanic Chamber
Don't try
of
to do it
Commerce,
alone. Yeah.
or don't try to do it alone, because there are so many services. We work with so many agencies. For example, the Louisiana Economic Development. They have resources for business owners that most people are not even aware of. Do you know that they can pay for your website to be created? They have, CEO peer-to-peer roundtables, all kinds of programming that will help any business owner grow.
That's excellent. Thank you so much for spending your time with us, and I know it's valuable. I greatly appreciate all the time and energy it took for us to get together, and I'm glad to find you having on the show.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
I appreciate you coming out. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Much success.
That's it for this episode of The Tenacious Entrepreneur. Thanks for tuning in and being part of this journey. Are you an entrepreneur with a tenacious story? We want to hear from you. Visit our website, tenaciousentrepreneur.com, and click on the Tell My Story link. If you got something valuable from today's episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with a fellow entrepreneur. Keep pushing forward, and remember, the end is only the beginning. A new episode drops every Wednesday at 7:14 a.m. Until then, remember to stay humble, stay focused, and be tenacious.